We're going to take a look at the Noosa Tri 16. It's $135, available July 1st. It's a super fun looking and running shoe, plateless, with a new Flyte Foam Blast Plus midsole foam. I've taken them out for several runs, so I'm going to give you my thoughts as well as some detailed comparisons. Okay, everybody, let's dig into the details of the Noosa Tri 16. Then I'm going to take them out for my third run on the roads of Rye. I'm also on the run, and after I'm going to compare them to some of the other competitors, but also some of the other shoes in the ASICS current lineup, the Magic Speed 4 and Novablast 4, as well as the New Balance Rebel V4 and two versions of the Mach from Hoka. So let's talk about this little guy here. So it is a unplated shoe. It's an up-tempo trainer, and as you can tell from the name, it has sort of a tri-focus, tri-heritage. They're always super colorful, and here colorful and a little bit kind of more subtle motif to the colors. They do have some tri-specific features, namely the pull tab here, both pull tabs, very nice, and a big hole here. I don't run tris, but I like this shoe. And it's a distinct improvement, I think, over the 14, which was the last I ran. What's different? It gets Flyte Foam Blast Plus with at least 20% bio-based content as its midsole. There is no plate here, but you do have ASICS GuideSole technology, which was so effective in shoes such as the Evo Ride and the Glide Ride. It really moves you forward. It is a 5mm drop shoe with a 34.5mm heel, 29.5mm forefoot, so 5mm drop. I don't think that's a change, and neither is the stack height. But the big difference here is the new foam. It also gets ASICS grip rubber, and I like the little extra kind of lugs there. You can see the projections and the holes through, as it is a relatively flexible shoe, something I like in kind of an up-tempo trainer that isn't plated. The upper is a nice, thin, very thin actually, engineered mesh that's, as you can see, it's not like a super soft kind of mesh. It has some substance to it, but it also has a bit of stretch. So the fit is really good. I'll comment on that. But it has an excellent fit, relatively wide toe box. There is a gusset tongue, a little hard to see, but we do have some pads on the side of the lace up. Laces are really neat. They're kind of a little bit sticky, maybe a bit long, but they really, really stay put. In a bit of a change, the heel collar I think is now lower, less elf-like. Maybe a bit more pressure back here for some people, but it didn't really bother me. But that's definitely a change. So it's $135 and it's available July 1st. And I think as we look at different kinds of shoes with more and more plated shoes, higher stacks, there is a definite place for this kind of an all-arounder. And I would say that I could easily daily train in it, and maybe more so than some of the other shoes we're going to talk about, especially the Rebel V4. Very soft. Forces really, really need to be fastened on its forefoot, unlike here. This is an all-arounder. Now, in terms of weight, we come in at 7.5 ounces, 213 grams for US 9. Very competitive for a non-supercritical foam shoe. With decent, that 34.5, 29.5 millimeter stack height. It is a 5mm drop. Sometimes with soft shoes, I find that the 5mm drop isn't enough, and also sometimes it depends on the geometry, but the GuideSole really works well here to drive me forward. Any pace has been good. So this is really an all-around light daily trainer to up-tempo shoe. You'll hear my commentary, but I also think it's a great option if you want, if you're running say a half or a 10K on a very hilly course, because you've got the flex. Let me show you that. You've got some nice flex. You've got a really bouncy, not hyper bouncy, but really rebounding heel. So I'm going to take them out now for the third run on the roads. It's a beautiful day here in Rye, and I'll give you the thoughts from the roads and then some comparisons and conclusions. And here are our comparisons to come. Stay tuned. So we're at the end of the beach here at what's called the Beach Club. And let's talk about the fit. So it's true to size. The mesh is sort of a mono meshy, but with a bit of stretch, bit of kind of snappy stretch. A bit short, but I wouldn't size up. Compared to, say, the upcoming Magic Speed 4, which has sort of a stretchier, more knit-like upper. This is a wider toe box, but it isn't as stretchy. It's got a unpadded tongue with little padded wings. You can't quite see them there. It's got the hole for pulling on triathlon. I'm not doing any tries. The laces are a bit long, but they're a bit sticky. They go through the hole super well. Never had to adjust in the 3 or 4 runs so far. Midfoot with the gusset, very well held. Heel counter is a bit lower, I think, than the 14 and 15 were. Noosa Tri works just fine. Maybe a bit more pressure at the very top because we don't have the flare, but not bothering me at all. So all in all, it's a performance-oriented upper, but a comfort-oriented one as well, especially up front with that somewhat wider toe box and a little bit of stretch. It's a really, really fine upper. If you want to compare to, say, the Mach 6, the Mach 6 is lower volume, less stretch. Of course, it's available in a wide as well as the regular. So this is a bit roomier than the Mach 6. And it's in terms of the Rebel V4, the Rebel V4 has more volume. It's a very thin material. I kind of prefer this for my foot, but if you have a slightly wider foot, the Rebel's upper might do you a bit better. And we'll talk here in a bit about the ride, comparative ride from the run. So we're gonna keep going. Cruising along about sub 10-minute pace now, a little faster. So in terms of the ride, very direct, responsive. That means it's not a super bouncy ride, although the bounce off the heel is noticeable. It's not overly soft. It's very kind of smoothly directed, quick feeling off the ground without being exaggerated, stable, a lot of good front snappy flexibility. Actually took them the other day on a far hillier course, and I noticed they climb really well and they're great on downhills. So if you have a 10K or even a half on a hilly course, I think they'd make a great choice, because sometimes plated shoes can kind of get in the way, especially on climbs, and then can be unstable on the downhills. Good for that. More comparison, Rebel B4, New Balance, softer foam for sure, showed you that, or I'll show you that. Less stable, about the same stack height, although it is several tenths of an ounce lighter. It's more a strictly speed shoe, whereas this is a speed plus, if you want a lighter daily trainer to racer, I think a better choice. Maybe not as exciting, but much more practical for me. So we also have ASICS GuideSole here that we found in some older shoes, such as the Evo Ride and Glide Ride, and it really directs the foot in the direction of travel. And now that instead of just regular Flyte Foam, we have the Blast Plus, really energizes the stride here. The landing is smooth, and you get a great transition, and then a smooth, quick toe off. Really nicely done with GuideSole. So let's start with a sort of a complementary shoe in the ASICS lineup, the Novablast 4? Well, the obvious difference here is in the stack height. As you can see, we have a 41.5 millimeter heel, 33.5 millimeter forefoot in the Novablast, whereas we're at 35.5 and 34.5 and 29.5 in our Noosa Tri. So we have an 8 millimeter drop shoe with much more stack height. It is basically the same foam. We have the same Flyte Foam Blast Plus. It's just a higher stack shoe. So it'll tend to, I think some people might like it for somewhat longer runs. The upper is thicker than what we have here. It's comfortable, but I'm going to lean with the upper over here on the Noosa Tri. There's no need for really as much upper as we have here, although it is super comfortable. Now, in terms of weight, that extra stack height, same foam, does make it 9.1 ounces compared to 7.5 ounces, so 258 grams versus about 213. So there is a weight difference, but of course you've got more cushion. In terms of the outsoles, you can see quite a difference there. And you can actually, let me go back a bit, you can see the platform widths here. Let me turn it around. Might be a bit easier to see that way. You can see how much wider the platform is on the Novablast. The platform is 190 at the heel, 70 at midfoot, 115 forefoot, whereas over here we are quite a bit less. We are at 80 millimeters at the heel, 67 midfoot, and 100 up front. So a narrower platform, a lighter shoe, more agile, a bit less cushioned. It really depends on what you need. So let's move on to the next comparison. We'll stick with ASICS with the Magic Speed 4. Okay, Magic Speed 4, big change to this shoe. We just reviewed it on the channel, and you'll see the you can see the review. So the Magic Speed 3 was plated, carbon plated, and was sort of the other up-tempo kind of shoe in the ASICS lineup, and was sort of another way to do it. Your up-tempo light kind of trainer. Well, with the Magic Speed 4, we become a max cushion shoe with a considerably higher stack height. So we're at 43.5 millimeters heel, and we are at 35.5 forefoot. So we have a considerably higher stack than our Noosa Tri. We have a full carbon plate as before in the Magic Speed, but a much higher stack. And we have a dual foam combination here. The Flyte Foam Turbo, which is seen in ASICS racing shoes, is a central core, and then we have basically the same Flyte Foam Blast surrounding it as sort of a carrier. It does weigh just a little less than an ounce more than our Noosa Tri. Of course, it has that higher stack. I see this one as more your long, steady run shoe, whereas before the Magic Speed was sort of your faster kind of up-tempo shoe with the plate. And I think the Noosa Tri in the ASICS lineup is now the one for your up-tempo kind of work. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We're going to talk about the Rebel. So the Rebel V4 from New Balance has almost exactly the same stack height. It is a bit lighter, a couple tenths of an ounce, a few grams lighter, 5-6 grams lighter, and it sits on a broader platform than our Noosa Tri. Let me try to show you that. You can see it's a broader platform. Its flex pattern is a little bit different. It's way up front versus our little bit longer flex pattern of the Noosa Tri. The Rebel has considerably softer foam, and it really requires you to be up on the front of the shoe way more than our Noosa Tri, at least for me. The heel is very, very soft. So while it's pleasant, it's not as stable or as sure-footed as our Noosa Tri. I think the Noosa Tri is a more versatile shoe at about the same weight. In terms of their uppers, they both have thin uppers. I think the Rebels is a little broader, it'll accommodate wider feet a little bit better. It's more minimal, that's for sure. It's the Phantom fit. Not quite as comfortable, I guess you could say, but very, very similar. You can see the heel counters are about the same height, maybe even the New Balance is a little bit lower. We have a bit more heel counter substance in the ASICS. Both are great up-tempo shoes. Depends on what you need, because the Rebel is a bit more exciting, maybe. Maybe not as practical. Its foam is a blend of PIBA and EVA, but it's mostly EVA. Very soft, very low density, whereas over here you've got a little bit denser, certainly plenty of cushion, a bit more kind of responsive, quicker reacting, whereas here it's more a bouncier feel. Okay, let's move to the Hoka Mach. Okay, the comparison to the Hoka Mach. So I've got the 6 here and the 4 back here. I did not run the 5, but it was quite similar. Now the Mach got quite a bit more stack height in this version. So it's up to now to 37 at the heel and 32 at the forefoot, 5mm drop, whereas we're over here, we're 34.5, 29.5, 5mm drop. So they're both 5mm drop. However, the biggest difference in terms of what comparing them is you can see how much broader the Mach is to our Noosa Tri. The width here is 70 millimeters, 90 millimeters at the heel of the Mach, 10 millimeters more than the Noosa Tri, and the midfoot's about the same, but we are also 10 millimeters wider on the Mach at the forefoot. So the Mach gets a supercritical foam, which it didn't have before. It's very energetic. It's a bit softer than our Noosa Tri. You can see it's quite soft, not super soft, but I would say it really changes the character of the shoe a bit. And if you could kind of say how it compares to the 4 back there, our Noosa Tri sits right in between in terms of kind of firmness and utility. The 4 and the 5 had that midsole, that outsole that was rubberized foam. They were quite firm. I felt quite firm, a bit too firm, whereas here we're quite a bit softer, but not quite as responsive as our Noosa Tri. If you're looking for the up-tempo kind of action, the Noosa Tri fits the bill a little bit better than the Mach now, whereas the Mach leans more towards daily training, whereas before they were more an up-tempo shoe. So they're both great options. In terms of the uppers, well, the Mach is the lowest volume upper, although I think there's a wide of the choices here. It's a similar kind of material, but there's less stretch. It's a bit stiffer than the softness here, you can see. So it's a relatively low volume upper in comparison to the Noosa Tri. Tough matchup there. I personally I think I would go with the Noosa Tri, at least for my preferences. I like the quicker response, if you will, of a slightly firmer foam, whereas over here it's more a daily trainer, maybe a bit more all-arounder, and certainly more all-arounder than the Mach used to be. And we have a full rubber outsole, which before they did not. So very close comparison between these two in terms of weight. It's the Mach with its wider platform is a little bit heavier. It's 0.2 of an ounce, or about 0.2 of an ounce heavier, but it is lighter than the Mach 5. That's a 4, which was almost 0.8 of an ounce heavier than our Noosa Tri. So great options. Okay, let's do some conclusions here. I really like this shoe. It kind of fits the bill of a snappy up-tempo trainer with plenty of cushioning. In terms of pros, I had the GuideSole Tech as being really effective here with the rocker and the flex. There's no need for a plate here. The cushioning, Flyte Foam Blast, is not super critical, but it is lively and responsive. Lightweight, 7.5 ounces, 215 grams for a relatively near maximal stack height of 34 and a half, 29 and a half. So it's a true racer trainer. Its performance ready upper is comfortable, really comfortable. One of the best kind of performance oriented uppers of the year for me. Well, the cons, there's only one. I wish it had full Flyte Foam Turbo instead of Blast Plus, but then it wouldn't be a $135 shoe and a great value. So we're going to have a multi-tester review real soon on Road Trail Run. The Noosa Tri 16 is available July 1st, $135. A great value and a fun shoe to run as an up-tempo kind of shoe, daily trainer. And there's something still to be said for the plateless shoe in today's Mach stack world. Have a great run.